Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's a huge pleasure to be here, and I don't need to tell you guys how important your industry is to the future of this country. So I am going to say a little about the broad context of skills, as well as a little bit about the particular issues that relate to the financial services. And I think there should be a slide coming up in a moment which will actually enable you to see. Can you see it? Yeah, okay, that's great. You don't need to be told that you have a skills shortage. If you didn't know before you came in today, you've got some hard numbers there which slightly take your breath away. And of course it is true that skills matter. Skills matter enormously. And again, as people have just been saying, one of the things which you guys are running up against is a very specific set of problems related to an acute shortage of maths and quantitative skills. And we know that this is true. It's not just that people are saying it, you feel it in your bones. You can see it in the research literature. For example, getting a GCSE in maths at any past grade boosts your future salary irrespective of how many other GCSEs you have and irrespective of what grades they have. The return to an A-level in maths is not only really high, but increasing. Used to be over a lifetime, holding everything else equal, working with people who don't have a clue that you ever took it. It used to add, on average, about 11% to your earnings. It's now gone up to about 14 or 15%. We have a maths shortage. We have a quantitative skills shortage. We have it in the context of multiple other skills shortages, but this is the one which matters most to you, and I'm going to come back to that briefly at the end. But of course, it is in the context of many other skill shortages. You talk to anybody. Sometimes it's about pay, so there's care sector. Often, and this I think is again pulling up together everything that has been said so far this morning, it's to do with the skills infrastructure, with whether or not we have a system in this country that tends to produce highly skilled young people and tends to promote upskilling through life. And again, this is something which I know I don't need to belabor in the context of financial services where things are changing all the time, but it's true in engineering, it's true in cyber, it's true throughout the economy. So we all know that skills matter, but do we really believe it? Do we really believe it? Because both at government level and I would have to say at employer level, we do not put our money where our mouth is. The sad truth is that employer spending on skills has been falling steadily since the early 1990s. And when you take out from that the fact that an increasing proportion is on statutory training, you know, the dreaded, the years come around again, I've got to do my fire stuff again. I do it in 3 different places, so I feel your pain. But if you take that out, we are spending less on training than we ever used to. And I think we have to ask ourselves why that is. And that is also true at government. Every politician stands up and says, skills matter. And then you look at the amount of money that is going into FE colleges, and it goes down and down and down. And it's also true, I would say, though that's a whole other conference, that the apprenticeship levy structure is not actually fit for purpose. It results in an awful lot of money being wasted rather than going genuinely and productively into skills growth. So I think that this is a problem for everybody. It's not just a problem for government, though it is a problem for government, it's a problem for everybody. But having said that and thrown some of the problem back at you, I think it is also true that the structure, the infrastructure, the organisations that could help you to train are very often not fit for purpose, and that is genuinely to do often with government decisions, the way we structure our school learning, our college learning, our university learning, and up until now, our absence of anything that lets you upskill easily later in life. So I want to say a little bit about this because I think it is also partly over to you guys to make this point forcibly and constantly, because governments never leave well alone. They're constantly fiddling with the structures. So it's a good idea if the people they are talking to actually give them some positive ideas for the next round of change. So the thing that I feel increasingly the longer I work in this area is that skills and qualifications are not the same. And we have a country which is, again, obsessed with qualifications. We stick qualifications on everything, partly because we are, at least in the public sector and the universities, paid to do so. And of course, this is tremendously appealing to anybody who is putting out public money, because it makes your accountability so easy. Have you spent the money properly? Yeah, look how many qualifications you've churned out. And this happens time and time and time again. And you know, at the moment, we're still carrying the bruises of 3 years of dealing with Treasury. They are seriously into accountability, really seriously. And so qualifications constantly slip through as the easiest way to do it. But whenever I actually talk to employers who have major ongoing skill shortages, it's very often not about qualifications. It's actually about skills. It's about a system for doing flexible upgrading, often quite specific and often quite local. And that's the other problem with governments, that they want everything to be national and standard. And they also gold plate whenever they create a qualification. So I think this is actually a really major problem for the skills system of this country, that we have become too tied to qualifications, and unless we have a real go at it, it is going to be very difficult for publicly funded institutions to offer the sort of flexible training that employers actually need, because at the moment they are tied into a qualification-based regime, and that has ripple effects. But, you know, obviously for many things you can and you will go to individual private training companies. But long term with a large industry, if the main national infrastructure is not fit for purpose in terms of not simply initial training but also upskilling, then we are going to go on having an ongoing skills and productivity problem. And in the previous panel, Pat Brennan mentioned something which I suspect hardly anybody here has heard of except her and me, which is a local skills improvement plan. But I want to come back to it because it's about what some small successes and lots of large failures, was bashing my own head against when I was working in number 10, which was exactly this. It was about creating structures and then trying to get changes in funding mechanisms, which would allow colleges and encourage universities as well to respond to employers in a flexible local way. And the local skills improvement plans are you know, they're basic negotiated between colleges and local chambers of commerce. But actually at the moment, which goes back to my first point, there's very little money that you can offer people, and there's still this tremendous emphasis on qualification-based accountability. And so for me, the most important battle of the next few years is to actually not just get more money into the sector, which then, you know, employers can match and supplement, but also to make the whole thing much more genuinely responsive to employers. So that if they come to you, they come to a university or a college, and they say that what they would like is something which is not based on some great fat qualification, but is local, flexible upskilling, it is easy for those institutions to respond, not necessarily to pay for all of it, but to pay for some of it, because skills are what economists call a public good. They're good for everybody. They're good for the whole public. But at the moment, everything in your structure goes against this. So to me, this point that, you know, we know central planning doesn't work, and yet we have a skills structure which is essentially centrally planned. And it is, I think, up to you and other employers to win that battle, because it won't be won internally. So then, having been gloomy, I want to end on a more optimistic note, because I do think there have also been a couple of things that have changed in the last 5 to 10 years, which are actually and potentially good news. And the first is about maths again, because while it is true that many people are still very frightened of maths, it's also true that actually an increasing proportion of young people and their parents are very aware that actually the future lies with the quants. Which means that this is something which people notice. And one of the things that's actually quite interesting has been not just a general increase in the number of people getting their GCSE maths, but there has been a real uptick in the number of people doing maths A-levels. And again, I think this is something for you to keep encouraging and keep getting the lesson through to schools. I think many people here probably go to schools, talk in careers, that yes, actually, this really matters, and it doesn't mean that you're going to sit day by day doing something that looks like a GCSE maths paper. That's not what it's going to mean. It's not even going to look like an A-level maths paper. That it's actually about a labour market in which I would say the deep skills that maths develops are more and more important, and that's why we pay for them. And the other thing, which if you look at my biography you will have noticed, is that the current government has encouraged universities to open what are effectively state sixth form colleges, specialist sixth form colleges, which are known as maths schools. They're quite small, they're mostly new. Ours at King's is the oldest, it's a whole 10 years old and very tiny. And we are also working really intensely with other people on maths circles to make maths more interesting for younger kids, upskilling students, not upskilling teachers, and really increasing the pipeline of genuinely enthusiastic, well-taught young mathematicians. So if anybody is interested in the maths school, just feel free to send me an email, because they are now around the country and also very interested in having links with local employers. And the other thing is also coming down the track, and again I think that you should be aware of it, which is that from 2025 the way in which student loans go out is going to change dramatically. Instead of borrowing a specific amount for a specific degree, there will be something called the lifelong learning entitlement, which basically means that you have an entitlement across your life to the equivalent of 4 years of higher education. Now, you will, under our regime, not get that all for free, but you can tap that entitlement as and when you like. And that means 4 years worth. And, well, how many of you who did a degree did it in 3 years? Okay, you've got a year's entitlement coming your way. And the reason that I wanted to end on this is that I actually think this is also a major opportunity for employers to talk to and work with universities, because it will change the incentive structure for universities. It will make it more sensible for them to look at upskilling with that 4th year, to be thinking about shorter courses, and generally the whole underlying structure will shift from something which has effectively forced us into having more and more of our students as full-time 3-year degree 18 to 21-year-olds, and actually change the underlying structure so that if business and employers and financial services step up, there is a structure waiting for you there by 2026, which is actually designed to encourage upskilling. So I'd like to end on that hopeful note, but also to say over to you guys. Thank you very much.